All right, guys, we are back with another podcast. We are here to talk about a few things that you guys have some questions on and just want us to go like a little bit more in depth. So that's what we're here to do today. Heather, you want to get started on the first subject?
Yes, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. So, in our lives, we've been asking kind of what people have been wanting to talk about, what they want us to dive into. One of the things that people are asking about is what to do if you've got activity in your house. And I don't even feel like most people are saying that this is anything negative. It's just, different sounds, different, just knowing that there is like something else in the house, if that makes sense. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we put up our own boundaries. I don't really do a whole lot of clearing, but I know that Alyssa has. So Alyssa will kind of go into like the clearing aspects of it and kind of what she's done for her friends and family. But I know most importantly, we would definitely want to talk about boundaries and how to make sure that you're keeping those boundaries up so that you don't have any extra, spirits hopping in, wanting to talk. And of course, some people do. Some people prefer to have that because they are looking for those signs from their loved ones, which is great. But some people tend to get bothered by constant activity in the house. So we're going to start there. Do you want to talk, Alyssa, kind of about how you've had to clear and how you set up your boundaries?
Yeah, so I actually really, really struggled with my boundaries for like pretty much all of my life until I got into mediumship. It was very bad, and it got very bad right before, I want to say like the year before I got into mediumship, it got super bad. I would feel presence in my room. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I would get super bad anxiety. And when I got into mediumship, I was very scared that, maybe it would open up even more and then I really wouldn't be able to sleep. So in the beginning, I really started to learn what my boundaries like were to start and then how to kind of set those boundaries. So the thing that I do now to really help me is right before I go to bed, which because it always happens at night when I'm about to go to sleep. I
Mm-hmm.
always, always, always talk to my spirit guides and I talk to my loved ones on the other side and I let them know, hey, I'm going to go to bed. Thank you for protecting me and things like that. No one is allowed in this room other than my spirit guides and my loved ones. Everyone else needs to get the hell out. This is my space. This is where I sleep. I don't want to feel anyone other than them in my room. So I have that little conversation with them in my head before I, actually fall asleep, which actually really, really does help. But it took me a little bit for it to actually kind of, I guess, say work. It was
Right.
a little bit of I needed to be more consistent with it. It was a little bit more I need to put my full intention into it instead of just
Yes.
saying it. I really, really needed to back it up on my end with them and kind of really
The
go
belief.
yeah, like go full force with it and really like envision it in my head also, like almost like this barricade around the room. You know what I mean? Because
It's
when I
exactly
wasn't
right.
doing that in the beginning, it helped, but it didn't stick, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I know like I've said in several readings and in our different lives that we do that spirit's very respectful. If you don't want them to be in there bothering us at night, and it's not even that they're trying to bother, it's just that they've got messages. They want to talk, and if they know that we can talk to them, then they tend to be very, very present all the time. And so I keep up boundaries all the time unless I'm actually reading. But I do know that, like for my house and my property, I do put up huge barriers, and I've been working on this since before I really opened up to mediumship, and it's something that I know a lot of people are struggling with because they don't really know how to physically see the boundaries. And so that's something that you have to kind of start with. And I started with meditation, and first you can start with just kind of like manipulating like your own aura and your own protection bubble that you put in place. It doesn't matter what color it is. It's going to be different for each person, but actually physically seeing that around you and knowing that this is my protective bubble. Nothing is allowed in here unless I'm allowing it to come in. But you have to have, like you said, a very strong intention behind it and belief that it is going to
Mhm.
work for you, and know that this is my protective bubble. And so that's what I started out with at first, just in meditations, learning how to protect myself in meditation so that nothing else was coming in except for what I was wanting to come in. And then as it got stronger and stronger, I was able to like make that bubble expand out to like that. My bathroom was, which is because I'm usually in the bathtub doing my meditations. And then it was
Mm,
like, okay, now I can protect my entire room and my bathroom. And now I can expand it to the entire house. And then it just got to be where I always had like a very, like an amber colored bubble, that actually protrudes out and protects the entire place. But especially at night, like you said, that is when I would feel most of the activity.
mm,
And so before I would go to bed, like we talked about yesterday, I would always feel, people in the room. Nothing
mm,
menacing, nothing, but like family members, people trying to get me messages. And so it would be hard to sleep because I could hear also, like as soon as I'd be falling asleep, I could hear voices, I could hear people talking, I could hear people singing, all the things. And so I eventually just got to where I would be like, okay, nobody's allowed in here. Like you said, at night,
yeah.
nobody's allowed in here. I'm going to bed. This is my rest time. Please respect that. And they would, and once I really put up those boundaries, I don't get any type of activity in our house. We have never had any activity. And so it's very like I said the other day when I wasn't here, when my husband and son said that they heard the door open and close while I wasn't here. But that's the
Mm,
first time that anything's ever happened. And I still feel like that's a little bit of a fluke. Like I don't know if they just were hearing something that really wasn't, because like I
mm,
said, we just don't have activity here ever. Nothing's ever moving around. Nothing's ever, and it especially like in the evenings or at night when I would assume that things would tend to kind of, amp up. They don't. It's always very, very chill. And but I do feel like that's something that you really have to make sure that you're doing before you do jump into doing any type of mediumship or work with the other side, just so that way you aren't constantly bombarded. Because I do know people that have kind of tried to open up and then opened up the door and wasn't able to close it, and then they're constantly bombarded with spirit, trying to communicate with them and not knowing how to shut that down. So super important to make sure that you learn all the important things first before you start trying to open up, so that you do know how to protect yourself and you aren't being bombarded all day long by spirit trying to give you messages. And then what would you say is the best way to clear if somebody is having that type of activity in the house and they're not wanting to, and I know most of these people don't even know who it is. They just know that there's activity going on. They don't
mm.
know exactly which spirit or if it is a loved one. But what would you say is the best way to rid that energy if they're not wanting to have that happen anymore?
So for me, I had that like my entire life, which I've talked about multiple times. My entire life, there's always been activity around me, no matter where I went. I usually, personally, it didn't bug me because I was so used to it. But once it got out of hand,
Mm-hmm.
I would tell my mom, and what we would do is we would get sage. We would get sage. We would start clockwise. Of course, make sure your house is clean, tidy. You do not want a dirty house when you're doing this. Make sure everything's clean, everything's closed, all your windows, doors, everything. We would sage, which I have my sage right here. I always keep
Mm-hmm.
with me. Sage, you start clockwise and you work all the way around the house. And what we would do is we would say the Lord's Prayer the entire time. And then we would also splash holy water at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do that throughout the entire house. As soon as we finished at the same exact spot that we started, me and my mom would always say a closing prayer, like, whoever is here needs to leave, that this is our home, and, stuff like that. Say amen. And then after that, you want to open up all your windows to let all of that stuff out, let the
Yep.
house air out. We close it. And then now, what I like to do, because, I'm into this stuff now, is I use Palo Santo because sage is, you think about it as like your deep cleaner and you think of Palo Santo as like your surface cleaner. So we would only sage like once every 3 to 6 months, depending on the amount of activity. And then
Mm-hmm.
Palo Santo, I would use like once a week. So sage gets rid of like all energy, and Palo
Right.
Santo gets rid of negative, but allows the positive to stay. So I would, burn Palo Santo after and invite the positive back in, which would be like my loved ones and
Right.
spirit guides and like, whoever I'm living with, like my mom, her loved ones, things like that, to invite them kind of back in to bring in that positive energy back. But just as for like surface cleaning, I would just use Palo Santo, which I love the smell of it. If you don't like Palo
Same.
Santo, I highly recommend dragon's blood incense. I love dragon's blood incense. So that's one way. Also, another huge thing, which I know you're into, also is crystals. Crystals
Yes.
are, I love crystals for protection. My favorite is black obsidian. So I even have some on my wrist. I have
Yep.
amethyst, clear quartz, smoky quartz. I use all the crystals, make sure that they're cleansed, that they're charged, that everything like that. So I use multiple things, and I love using multiple tools because I just feel like it makes everything so much stronger. You know what I mean? I just
Exactly.
love it.
Yep, I agree. And like I said, I have never really even had like I sage people when I do Reiki to get rid of the negative energy and all the extra like stagnant energy off of people. But that's exactly, I've always heard the exact same thing of, doing the clockwise, going through the house. But honestly, I think it really just depends on the person.
Mhm.
I've never had to use anything like that. Like I said, I have always literally just used my own mind to keep everything. I love crystals though. So like you said, I keep my black obsidian right here, crystal
Mhm.
quartz, and I've got selenite, my main ones that always stay on my desk since I am reading all day long. And I love those. And like you said, you can always clear your crystals and everything with incense. It's kind of whatever, because some people are very prone to just having issues with like different types of smoky smells and
Yeah.
stuff. So again, remember, it's all kind of whichever way works for you. There's no exact way that you have to do anything. It's just really what works for you. And so for me, like I said, I did do a lot of clearing when I first started because I felt like I had to all the time. Now I know that I don't have to, but for some people, if you are having more activity, it would be beneficial to make sure that you are doing that, especially if you aren't really capable yet of doing the whole, mind protection boundaries, if that makes sense. So I definitely think that's important. And, you can always message us, guys, if you ever have any issues with things that you're having a hard time with getting out of the house or whatever, and we can kind of reiterate what needs to be done. But again, Reiki masters can come in and clear houses as well. People from the church, whatever you're into, whatever kind of floats your boat with that, and whatever, you really believe in is what's going to work for you, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So all different kinds of ways. So that was a really good question, something that, we've both dealt with kind of through our lives. But like I said, as I've gotten into this more and more, I just use my mind as my boundaries, just like whenever I'm going out, to eat or to go to the store, or just to go out to a birthday party, whatever it is, I keep my boundaries up at all times so that I'm not being bombarded, because even just being around other people, their family members can want to come and try to like, let me know, let us know how they're doing. Let them know how I'm doing, type of thing, like wanting to have the whole conversation. So, as you know, with us being mediums, like if we don't keep that shut down, we will be bombarded all the time. So I
Yeah.
feel like it's not something that, you can use just in your home, but you can also use this whenever you're out and about, and keep those boundaries up so that you don't have people, either sucking your own energy out of you. We've got energy vampires out there who will definitely take all of your energy if you let them. It's just a good way to practice protection for your own energy, as well as, not letting anybody get into your energy, or also not bringing on anybody else's energy either. So that always helps. And I feel like it's a great way to practice, but it does take time. It's not something that you're going to learn overnight. It does take some practice. And that's why we wanted to talk about making sure that, you do that first before you try to open anything up that you're not going to be able to shut down, because it happens a lot.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. It can be a lot, you know what I mean?
It is.
Especially when you're just starting out. You don't know what this is, you don't know what that is, because we've been there at some point.
Yes.
We have both been there, and it is a lot. It's a lot to take on in the moment, and that's kind of why we do what we do, which is this podcast. So that way you guys are aware of, our experiences. You get two different mediums, perspectives and experiences, and how we deal with them in our own little ways. You know what I mean? I love
Exactly. And everything, like I said, it's going to work different for every single person, and that's why we want to give our perspectives. But of course, everybody's going to be different, so it's going to be what works best for you, what you believe in, because the stronger that your belief system is in something, the more that it's going to work for you.
that. Oh
I've
yeah.
actually heard people talking about like, you know you don't have to use sage. You can use incense to clear a house, because if you fully believe in that incense clearing, it's going to do the same thing. It's the intention
Yeah.
behind it that you're putting into doing it. But a lot of people just feel better using sage because it's always been kind of a proven, factor in clearing, and it's always kind of been like everybody's go-to. So it's really, like you said, whatever you think. Use, because you can use Palo Santo just like you said in the same way. They do work a little bit differently, but they do still overall do the same. They're getting you the same result. So I love
Yeah,
that
the
for
mind is
sure.
very, very powerful, way more than we honestly realize. Like
Yes.
intention is literally everything.
That's what, yeah, because if you're just walking around and you're not really into it or you're not really focused on it, there has to be that intention behind it of exactly what you want to happen. And
Mhm.
our minds are a lot more powerful than everybody really realizes. Especially doing stuff like
Mhm.
this. We realize that our minds, we can manipulate a lot more than just we our minds are so powerful and people don't realize that. So that's why, like I said, I've really focused on keeping my mind as powerful as possible with the boundaries, and that's all that I really use. So it just really depends on the person and what you feel comfortable with and what your belief system is. So I love that for everybody as far as asking those questions and kind of knowing, or wanting to know what to do, because we're always here to help with those kinds of things. You can always message us. Remember, guys, we do have our email, the number 2 mediums no filter at gmail, that you can always message us with questions about, this is not working as good as I thought it was going to be, or, and we can definitely give you some tips and pointers on what we would do from that point, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
100%. I love
All
it.
righty. Well, next on our list of things to talk about, because this came up this week, and we've talked about this in our classes, which we're also going to talk about that a little bit later. Me and Alyssa actually met in an advanced mediumship class, which was really, really awesome. So I have had some people ask, what do I do if I want to get started? So we're going to go into that here in a little bit as well. But something that's really big that we want to make sure that we're talking about is scammers. Number one, we both have scammers on TikTok all the time. So please know that no ethical medium will ever reach out to you saying, I feel drawn to your energy and this and that. That's not a thing. If they're messaging you, that's going to be a scammer account. So make sure that you're reporting them and blocking them. And please know that unfortunately, we don't have any control over that. I have people messaging me and they're like, you're going to get a bad rep for this. And I'm like, I can't control it, guys. Like, trust me, I don't have the
Mhm.
time to be messaging people. It's not me. And there's really not a whole lot that we can do besides block and report, which I know we all do as mediums. But unfortunately, we just don't have any way to control that, guys. So just know it's just as annoying to us as it is to you. So just, block them, report them, delete them. But the main thing is because there are scammers out there that do that, there's also a lot of mediums, guys, that you have to be careful for as well. So that's something else that we want to talk about today. And I'm not going to mention any actual names or anything, but we do want to talk about making sure that whenever you are going to go, find a mediumship or a person to do your mediumship for you, or a certain medium that you're looking to read for you, make sure that you do your due diligence and that you are watching this person. Don't just jump into a reading if you've never watched this medium before, because all mediums are different. We do have a very good community of very ethical mediums that we recommend, in our group. And I've watched every single person. I'm not going to recommend somebody to you if I don't fully believe that you would get a wonderful reading from them. And of course, on that note, all readings are different. So you have to remember to set aside your expectations and not just assume that you're going to get certain information. We talked about that as well. But we definitely know, kind of in our own little group, which mediums are good, who we recommend. But then there's the other mediums on the other side. And of course, I've watched mediums as well where I don't feel like they're bringing forth the information that's really needed for somebody. A medium can sit there and take your money from you and say, that your loved one on the other side, misses you. They're super proud of you. You're doing really, really well in life, and they love you, you know. But there's mediums that do that. And unfortunately, that's why we preface that we are evidential mediums, and we're going to bring through actual validations that make sense so that you know that this is your family member on the other side, whether it be dates, people, places, things, core memories from whenever you were little, core memories whenever you were older, things that are happening right now, things that are in your
Mhm.
living room or your house right now because your family members are in there with you. Things like that. That's what we do as evidential mediums to make sure that you understand that we are not just talking, to some random person on the other side. This is your family member that's coming in to guide you, protect you, and show you all the love. But it has to be more than just they love you, they miss you, they're proud of you, because anybody can say that. Now, on that note, that's kind of a positive. We also have mediums that are saying really, really ugly stuff to people. I'm not going to say any names of who I read for, but I did have somebody in my live yesterday who said that they had a reading where they told them that their loved one was sick on the other side and alone. So, of course, this left this person super just broken, just feeling like just overwhelmed with worry about their person being on the other side feeling like that, which of course, we talked about this. That's just not a thing on the other side. That is not how it works.
Mhm.
There's nobody that's sick on the other side. They do not carry ailments, whether it be physical or mental, to the other side. So it's very, very important for you all to know that that is not a thing, that they are, and they're never alone. They've got friends, they've got family members. Like while I was reading for her, she had 3 other women that were with her. So she was never alone. And, you know, her reading really, really well. She gave great validations of things from her childhood, things that were happening now, things that they had actually talked about, and things that she wanted her to do in life now. And she was really, really happy with it, which makes me happy because that's what we're here to do. But what makes me upset is that she went from having one reading where this, you know, person was telling her that her loved one was alone and sick on the other side. And I don't even know how long ago that had been, but I don't know how long she'd been carrying that anxiety and worry about her grandmother, you know.
Mhm.
So that's what we want to talk about, is that it just really infuriates us as ethical mediums when people are telling you things like that, and it's more of like a scare tactic and more of a, you know, and it's not even, and that's all that she gave. She just literally said, like, you know, your grandma doesn't want to talk, um you know, and that was kind of how the reading was left, which I feel like is ridiculous, you know what I mean? And of course, you know,
Yeah.
there are going to be times, we've talked about this as well, where, you know, we may not be able to get somebody from the other side. Maybe they're not vibing with us on the other side. And so we will recommend another medium if we're not pulling in great information or they're just not really willing to talk. But we definitely are never going to give you negative information saying that this person doesn't want to talk to you because they're sick and alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and say your piece on that, Alyssa, because I know that, like, we've talked about this and we've had several people bring up, you know, readings that they've had that were very, very negative.
Yeah, I actually had someone bring someone to me because they've seen me read, and this person that they brought was actually hurt by another medium on TikTok. So she brought her to me and she's like, I trust you. I've seen you read. I know that the reading is going to go amazing. So, I gave her a reading and she ended up loving it. She was so hurt because this person had just passed away. And although this medium didn't inherently say anything negative like that,
Mm-hmm.
they still hurt this person because it made her wonder, okay, she couldn't give me like any evidence. Nothing was correct at all. And then, she didn't give her money back or anything like that. And all she gave was messages. And she's kind of sitting there like, well, is my loved one mad at me? Is my loved one okay? Like, that whole reading really didn't make any sense. And it was just all messages. So she was very, very hurt. Although she wasn't told this, she started to internalize it
Right.
because she didn't know what was going on by this medium who was, like, I guess, well known. So it's even things like that. Like, some mediums don't even have to say anything inherently bad. The medium could have simply said, "Hey, I'm not sure what's going on. Like, maybe we're just not vibing. There's some kind of connection issue. I'm not sure. Let me refund you. Let me try again another day whenever you're ready. But I don't know what's going on right now. Maybe it's me. I don't know what's going on." You know what I mean?
Right.
But just say, your loved one is safe and at peace on the other side. It's just my connection is something's going on there.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really sad because a lot of people don't realize the power that us mediums have.
Right.
Um, People are coming to us because they're hurt and they want to talk to their loved ones, and they want to feel that connection with them for, in the minis, 10 to 15 minutes.
Right.
But, they want to know that they're okay and they're safe and they're watching over them and what signs to look for and things like that. And then something like that happens and it could be very,
Right.
very discouraging. They could never want to go to a medium again. You
Right.
know what I mean? And then they miss out on this opportunity to really connect with their loved ones and really know for a fact that they are safe and okay on the other side. And then they're missing out on that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's really, really hard. I cannot say that I've had a bad reading from an unethical medium. I got into mediumship pretty quickly and started getting readings and practice readings and things like that. So I can't say that personally, but I have heard some horror stories, unfortunately.
Right.
And I think it's just super, super sad. So I think that is something that, I talk about on my live. I know you talk about it on your live, to make sure you guys are being very careful and vetting out your mediums, watching them read. watching them work and see how it goes. Because not every person is going to vibe with me. Not every person's going to vibe with you. Not every spirit's going to vibe with us. Sometimes that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's huge to make sure you're vetting out your mediums and that you trust them. I always say trust is the biggest thing.
Huge.
Number one, you have to
Yeah.
trust the medium you're going to. I always say at the end of my readings, thank you so much for trusting me with your
Yep.
loved one. Because again, you are trusting them with your loved one on the other side. And
Right.
me personally, I'm just like that too. Like, I don't trust just anyone with my loved ones on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Exactly. It is huge, the trust, that the trust aspect, but like I said, I feel like some people, and like you talked about, when they come to us, it's because they are looking for either answers, they are grieving and just looking to make sure that, their loved ones are okay. And we're here to provide that, but they do have to trust us, and we have to trust spirit at the same time, because like we're just really like the gateway is what we are. But it's so important to make sure that you are finding a medium that is, number one, ethical, super important, but also trustworthy with, the information that's being given and brought over from the other side. And it's just important because, like I said, we are here to help people heal. We're never here to give, I've also heard of, people talking about, oh, well, I had a mediumship done, and after I got done, they told me that I have an attachment, and if they want me to
mm,
get rid of that attachment, it's going to be $500. So there's also that type of stuff going on. Please don't like feed into that, guys. Like, that is not a
yeah.
thing. That's not going to happen. So that's something else that we wanted to mention, because I just feel like there's so much scamming going on these days that should not be
Hmm.
happening. And I mean, and unfortunately, we don't have any way to control unethical people, except
Yeah.
for to like either advise, to stay away from this person, whatever. But I really try not to badmouth anybody in particular, but we are here to also educate and make sure that you are not getting scammed, not spending money on something that's only going to hurt you in the long run, because they're giving you information that half the time isn't even true to begin with. But again, unfortunately, we don't have any way to block that from happening, but we can at least educate so that you know kind of what to watch for. And like I said, if they're not giving like actual evidence for you that you can validate, I just feel like, you really need to find somebody else, because it has to make sense. Like I said, I actually had my own reading done by a medium one time who nothing made sense. Everything that she said was just, oh, like, your grandpa's so proud of you, and he's dancing to this song, which made no sense. And I was like, first of all, I've never seen my grandpa dance, like, ever. You know what I mean? So everything that
Hmm.
she said just did not make sense. But there was not one piece of evidence that she actually brought forward. It was just all, oh, he misses you and he loves you and he's proud of you. Well, we can all say that. Anybody can be a medium and say that stuff, which we all are mediums, on that note. But you have to be able to bring evidence forward that actually makes sense and resonates, or else, to me, it's not worth spending, your time or money on, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's imperative that, you're doing your due diligence. We do it the same. And we also, like I said, we even tell people every single day, like, make sure that you're, watching your mediums, and that, the fit is good, and again, like you said as well, if we're not getting something from the other side, even Tyler Henry says, hey, some people come in like Whitewater Rapids and are so, bubbly and energetic and talkative. And
Hmm.
some people are literally like a little trickle of water coming out of a faucet, and they just don't have much to say, or just don't really want to talk. And sometimes it's because that was their personality in life. They didn't have a whole lot to say when they were here, and there's somebody that's very shut off and closed. That carries over to the other side. So sometimes it is a little bit more like where it's pulling teeth with certain people, but we can usually still get, good validations from them and good information, good evidence. But like I said, not all spirit is the same, and we have no
Hmm.
control over what we are going to get on the other side. We are literally here just to, be the driver and give out information as given to us. So I think that's something that's important for people to know as well, because I think sometimes people come in and they expect, certain phrases, certain people to be mentioned. I want this exact moment to be mentioned, and that's just not how it works with mediumship.
No.
So it's very important for people to also understand the expectations behind it as well, for sure.
Yeah, we're here to help and we're here to heal. We are
Yes.
not here to perform and we are
Right.
not here to prove, because that
Yes.
is something also that can be very irritating for us mediums. If you're a medium, you understand it completely.
Yes.
Um, some people try and be like, oh, well, if you don't tell me this, then you're not real. I'm not here to prove myself to you.
Right.
You know what
Exactly.
I mean? I say in my lives, I'm like the mailman.
Right.
I get the mail and I hand it over to you. Do I have any
Yes.
control of what does or does not come in that mail? No,
Right.
I don't. I just
No.
I they hand me the mail and I hand it over to you.
Yes.
That's just what it is. Not every reading is going to be the same. One person, I might have an amazing reading and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you mentioned this," and then the next person, their spirit or their loved one might not have much to say, and
Right.
we have no control over that. That's just
Exactly.
how spirit communicates with us. We are
Yep.
simply the messenger. We are the telephone. You know what I mean? We
Yep.
don't have control over it. And that's a huge, I think, misconception.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, this medium didn't tell me this and this one didn't tell me that. We need to make sure. I'm guilty of it too. I thought that it maybe worked like that before I got into mediumship.
Right.
Now that I'm in it, I completely understand it does not work like that. As
Exactly.
much as I wish it did, it would make my life a whole lot easier.
Yes.
It doesn't. It
It's
really
not a
doesn't.
direct phone call to the other side, and people will
Yeah,
be
it's
like, "Can
not.
I ask a question?" And I'm like, "You can ask a question, but it's up to them to answer." Like I'd be happy to kind of like try to fill into it, and 9 times out of 10 I can. And sometimes they don't want to talk about it. It's something like it's just not something that they are worried about or care about at that time, and they're like, "This is more important." And like I always say too, like you're going to get the message that you need, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the message that you want. And like you said, I've had people tell me, "Oh, well, there's something that I'm waiting for you to bring up, and if you don't bring it up, like I don't feel like that's my person." Well, then, you probably need to wait because you've still got some walls up at that point. You're not ready for this, so you have to
Yeah.
also be open enough and willing, because if you're saying that, then number one, you don't believe in it. Like you're skeptical, which is fine. I like to read for skeptical people, but again, like you said, this is not a performance. I'm not trying to jump through hoops for anybody to make you happy. I'm going to give you everything that your spirit's giving to me for sure, because I want it to make sense and I want it to be, something to heal. But at the same time, this is not like we are not circus performers. We are
Yeah.
here to provide exactly what we're getting from spirit. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's great information. It's great motivational, and wisdom from the other side. But sometimes they just may not have as much to say or exactly, what you're wanting to hear. And that's okay. Because remember, guys, like you are definitely going to get what you need, not necessarily what you want in a reading, So, but I definitely try to keep it always, on the positive side. I'm never going to tell anybody anything negative about their loved ones on the other side, because that's just not a thing. They're not alone. They're not sick. Like that's not even a
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it just annoys me whenever we get people that say stuff like that and that have been holding on to those type of things, when that's just not even, how it is. So
Yeah. They're not human on the other side. We're
exactly.
the ones that are sick and, going through
Yes.
this emotion and that
They don't
emotion.
have that.
They don't.
Exactly.
They really
Exactly.
don't. They always come through with so much love and so much positive. I've even read for some spirits where I'm just like, you know what, you're actually pretty cool. You want to hang out? Just hang out with me for a
Exactly.
bit because they
Exactly.
so much
They can,
love. I've
yeah.
had people come in and it'll be someone's parent and they'll make me feel like I'm their child too.
Yes.
And it's just like such an overwhelming amount of love and it's so beautiful. It really, really is so
Exactly.
beautiful.
Those uplifting messages that they give, and I was actually talking about this yesterday. I feel like I get so many lessons from the other side daily. Like one of the big lessons this week that I've had is like them talking about like us just not taking things so serious. Like we literally get into our heads and we take things so seriously. People have like overwhelming and crippling anxiety because we worry about stuff that has no meaning. Like
Hmm.
I know that we're thinking that it's super serious and that we've got to take care of this and we've got to take care of that, and we're constantly rushing to make sure that we're doing this and that. And spirit lately has been like, slow down. Like, that's not,
Hmm.
you don't need to worry about these things. You're literally making your life miserable for no reason, just because you're worrying about things that are not even important. They're
Yeah.
like, change your perspective, look at the positive side of things, slow down, open your eyes. Like, there's so much more to life than just making sure that we're making enough money to pay bills, if that makes sense. Like they
Yeah.
literally are putting like the words of wisdom every single day in every single reading that I do. And I just love, because I'm like, I'm learning from them, and they will literally be kind of reprimanding me from the other side and being like, and you too, girl, like you need to like slow down and like
Hmm.
pay attention to this. And so I like, they literally will get on me and they're like, I'm not just talking to my daughter, I'm talking to you too, like you said. So
No, they do that
that,
to me
yeah,
too.
exactly. And like you said, we get the uplifting side of it, and they tell us like, hey, you're doing a good job as well, because I feel like I get that same, overpouring and outpouring of love from them, just like you said. But they will also be like, you need to make sure that you're taking these lessons as well. just like they're giving to their family members and things that they want them to be doing, whether it be going back to school or whatever it is. They're like, and you too, like you need to continue your education and continue to do your research. Like they are here to help us, guys. It's always going to be positive though, like they're so, like you said, it's nothing but love and positivity and them wanting to be protective over us from the other side and just make sure that we're doing the best for ourselves and our own highest good. That's all that they care about, and showing us how to do it. That's kind of like what always comes in at the end of my readings is like, what do you need to be working on, and they'll give it to you for sure, and some people,
Oh
they're just
yeah.
like, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing. They don't have anything, to say
Mhm.
because you're already doing so well and you've already got a positive perspective on life. So it just depends on the person and kind of what spirit thinks that they need to be doing,
Yeah.
which really brings us to something else that we wanted to talk about, which is signs and synchronicities that people are seeing and how we know that our loved ones are around and how they're guiding us, because that goes a lot with the lessons that they are telling us about and kind of what we need to be working on. And a lot of times when we are getting signs and synchronicities, it's because our loved ones are trying to reach out and give us the guidance that we're asking for. Because daily we're asking, what should I do about this situation, or what should I do about this, or give me a sign. And we're
Yeah.
getting them, but we're not paying attention half the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Honestly, the signs for me have like become so much more like I guess noticeable since I got
Yes.
into mediumship. These signs, I would have completely missed them if I
Right.
didn't know, what was
What to look
happening
for.
in the moment. Yeah, I now I'll even be on live and be like, okay, that was a sign. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
The signs can be so small. I remember one time we were driving to the casino and I saw a big Harley in front of me. And I was kind of like, I instantly thought of my grandpa because he had a Harley.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like, huh. Okay, I was like, now all I need to see is an eagle because that was another sign for him. And I look at the window and I'm like looking for the eagle and I'm like talking to myself in my head, Alyssa, you're not going to see an eagle out here. Like, come on. So I face back forward. Not even 2 seconds later, a giant billboard with an eagle on it is
There you go.
I see it as we're passing, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, like,
Wow. Yeah.
oh my God. And I would have missed that. I wouldn't have been
Right.
like, Harley, Grandpa, you know what I mean?
Right.
I would have seen it and maybe thought of him, but I wouldn't have thought it was a sign from him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we see Harleys all the time on the road.
Exactly.
So, but that one was special. So,
Yes. And there are, all of our loved ones, like I feel like, and that's something that I do at the end of almost every single run of my readings is I try to tune in and say, like, this is what they're showing me is going to be a sign for you. And
mhm,
some people are like, okay, like I've already been seeing this, but I just didn't connect the dots to that, or it's something that they haven't seen yet. Or possibly could have, but just missed it, so it kind of gives them
mhm,
something to look forward to and to look for, because again, and like I also, like to say, number one, you're not going to get a sign every single day. Our loved ones are with us every single day, but they're only going to be giving you those signs when you need to be paying attention for a reason,
yeah,
and they are trying to answer whatever your question has been or whatever guidance you've been asking for, but they're not going to like come in and give you 15 signs a day. That's just not how it works. Again, it's as needed, as an as needed basis. And so that's why I try to explain is that, whenever you do see it, know that it's definitely going to be a little kiss and hug from the other side, but you also need to focus on, what is the meaning behind it, so I will look up the spiritual meaning and give it to them so they kind of know what it means. There needs to be some type of a meaning behind it. But we also see things like cardinals, dragonflies, butterflies that we know are also very high vibrational beings, and we know that is a sign from our loved ones, but that can be anybody. Ancestors, random 2 or 3 different types of grandparents coming in at one time. But that's why I like to kind of like single out a certain thing for them to pay attention to for this person that I'm reading for, if that makes sense. So I try to like give them something to look for each specific person that I do, but also know that like there are all different other kinds of signs, whether it be angel numbers that you're seeing, that you're automatically just like being drawn to and seeing 24/7, whether it be, like you said, when you're out in the road and you see it on a license plate or a random number with a billboard that's got like 777 on it because it's a, Powerball number or whatever it is. But there's so many different synchronicities that, not only our loved ones, but also our guides, our guardians are also giving to us to make sure that we're paying attention and like we are being open to the messages. But a lot of times we aren't. So that's the thing, is like, that's what we wanted to talk about, is knowing that, we are getting them and kind of what to look for. But, and, as I've learned, as I started my spiritual journey, I definitely always say now that there are no coincidences. There's no such things as coincidences. It's all synchronicities. They all actually mean something. It's not a coincidence whenever you see something that resonates with your grandpa or your mom or whoever it is on the other side. And like you said, if you see something and it makes sense, let it make sense. Don't overthink it. Don't think that, I'm overanalyzing, I'm reaching, because they are giving us signs. Like I said, it's not going to be 20 times a day in most cases, but we are getting those signs daily for sure.
Mhm.
But I think most of the time we're missing them. We're not accepting them for whatever reason. And that's big. And it's also like lyrics from songs, different types of songs that are coming on the radio. Like, they connect with us in so many different ways. Feathers,
Mhm.
pennies, there's all different kinds of ways that, that you just have to kind of look out for and know, okay, that's a little hello from the other side.
Yeah, some of the signs don't even come in till later.
Right.
Um, I had one reading recently where I said, "How do you connect to Skittles?" And she couldn't take it in the moment. She was like, I got to think about it. Okay, no problem. She messaged me the next day and she said that she was at the gas station with her son. She gave her son money to go inside and get a snack, and he came back outside with Skittles for them to share.
I love
I was like,
that.
see, that was a little sign from your loved
Yes.
one saying hello. Hey, like, you know what I mean? They
Yep,
will
we're
still work
here.
through your loved ones. I had another one with flowers. She said she didn't remember the last time that she received flowers from her husband. It had been so long.
Uh-huh.
And her loved one says, well, you deserve them. You need the flowers. That same day, within a couple hours, her husband came home with a bouquet of flowers, and she was in total shock. She's like, "What? Like, why?" He's like, "I don't know. Like, I just have this feeling that you deserve them, so I brought you flowers." And she was just sort of like, "Oh my
I
God."
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And that is something that, like you said, sometimes we see stuff before it happens. We are also psychics as well. And so, like, I had done a reading where, her loved one kept talking about orange carnations. And she was like, it doesn't make any sense. And I was like, it's okay if it doesn't make any sense, but you're going to see them. Like, just know if it isn't making sense now, it will. She messaged me that night. She was an Uber driver. She pulled up to a house that had like a million orange carnations out in front of it. That's all that it was, just orange carnations everywhere. And she was like, at the moment that I stopped and I just stared, she was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, cause I was like, you literally said you're going to see it. And half the time people are like, okay, whatever, because if it's not making sense right now, people get impatient, and they're like, it needs to make sense now. And I get that. We've been there. We have been sitters before as well. But she was like, it made so much sense the minute that I saw it. And I was like so appreciative because you said, like, just wait, like you'll see it. And sure enough, like not even 3 or 4 hours later, here comes her sign. So again, guys, like sometimes if we say something that doesn't make sense right now, it doesn't have to. It will. It'll make sense whenever it needs to make sense.
Mhm.
And it'll, just as long as you keep that in your back pocket, they are definitely going to give it to you. So just know, we definitely get some psychic hits that are like future reference. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't make sense right now, it will. Just hang on to it, But I love that. And I know that our loved ones are always with us and always giving us the signs and synchronicities. We just don't always tend to catch them. So you just kind of have to be more aware. That's the main message behind this is just knowing that you are getting them. You just have to be able to connect the dots. And sometimes, we just have to be there to be the ones to connect the dots for you sometimes and tell you kind of what to be looking for.
Yeah, and sometimes if you're more sensitive too, like with me, I can feel the energy. So if
Right.
I get confused on a sign from one of my loved ones and I'm kind of like, okay, I saw that sign, but who is it?
Right.
I'll immediately feel them step up behind me, like walk up from behind and stand behind me, and I can immediately tell which one of my loved ones it is that sent me this.
Right. Yes. And that's amazing. And that's why I try to tell people, like, I know we've talked about clairs in here and stuff, but I'll tell them, like, they're talking to you. Like, they're talking to you. And sometimes you do hear them, but then I have to go into explaining, that it's not going to be in their voice, it's going to be in your voice, but it will make no sense compared to what you were just talking about. You might have just been thinking in your head, oh, I need to go do this and that. And then all of a sudden a joke pops in or a song pops in that makes no sense. That's your loved ones hopping in to say hello. And
Mhm.
it's usually going to be whenever, you're thinking about something else or you're in the midst of doing something else and concentrating. But when it makes no sense on what you were just thinking in your own head, it's still going to come in your own voice. So that's what's confusing for people, I think. And that's why they don't understand, and really connect those dots, because they're like, I thought it was just, me, like kind of switching gears and going to something else. But half the time, no, it's your loved ones hopping in to give you guidance, give you reminders, give you answers to things that you've been asking about. They're definitely here to talk to us, but you do, like you said, you have to have that awareness open, and not everybody does. And
Yeah,
that's something
it
that,
takes time to develop.
it does. You've got to be aware and open to, become more aware, in order for it, to really open up and you be able to understand, how to communicate, because they're all communicating in all different ways. You just have to figure out which way is the easiest for you to connect with them.
Oh yeah, 100%. They'll show so many different signs. Like I hardly even get the original signs anymore.
Right.
It's like they start to kind of like rotate them out in a way and they give me new signs. Like one of them is actually a song. It's Firework by Katy Perry. And it always comes on or it pops on whenever I'm going through something and I'm
Right.
feeling a little down. Firework pops on, which is a very encouraging song. Even
Yes.
it's very
Yes.
positive. So it's like little things like that. And again, I would have
Right.
missed that if I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Very
For
easy to miss.
sure. Very, very easy. And like I said, I feel like a lot of people are getting the signs. We just don't know how to connect them, or a lot of people tend to think that they're reaching. I'm trying too hard to get a sign, so this doesn't really make sense. Or they want a specific sign and they're not getting it, so it kind of just depends. Spirit's definitely going to try to work with you if you ask them to give you a certain sign. You can get it sometimes, but sometimes if they don't really jive with it, they're not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
It has to go with them. And sometimes they want to be the ones to make up their own way of getting in contact with you, if that makes sense. It's not always what we want, guys. So that's also
Yeah.
important to know.
Yeah. I always say too, like, don't set your loved ones up for failure.
Exactly.
Let them kind of come to you. And again, you have to find that balance between looking and
Right.
being open and just being like, closed off and in your own little world. You need to find that happy medium. Just be open to it. Don't put any pressure on it. Don't put any pressure on them. They
Right.
will come. Just don't look too hard and just make sure that you're open to receiving it in whatever way that they choose to show you that they are around. It can
Exactly.
be the smallest things, like literally the smallest things can
Yes.
mean so much. So much. I even get mine in TikToks.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I
TikTok
get
is
mine
a
in
huge,
TikToks.
that's what I
Yeah.
tell people. I'm like, if they give me something random that obviously you're not going to see like on your front porch, whether it be a zebra or a giraffe or some random animal that they give me, I'm like, it doesn't have to be something that you're going to like physically see out in everyday life. It can be, like you said, on a billboard, on a
Hmm.
commercial, on the Discovery Channel, on TikTok, on Facebook, wherever it is. And it doesn't even have to be a lie. It could be a cartoon giraffe. It still
Hmm.
is a sign from them. So you have to, like you said, you have to stay open minded. You can't make it something that's so, serious that it has to look exactly like this, or it has to, if you get into your head too much about it, then you're going to miss it regardless, because you're not leaving yourself open enough to it. Like you said, you have to be open, and it has to be, it can be very, very random, but like I said, I try to give examples of where it can pop up, so they're not looking for literally, like, you're not going to have a Black Panther on your front porch. I mean, if you do, that's cool, but it's also scary, you know what I mean? So I'm like, just
Also
know that
run.
yeah. So like it really just depends on, how it's going to be presented. And I don't ever know how it's going to be presented. I just know that, like, you're going to see it. But like I said, I try to give some examples so that they know kind of what to watch for, and they don't feel like I'm setting them up for failure either, because you aren't going to have a Black Panther like in your living room. You know what I mean? I mean, you could have a picture,
Hmm.
and that's the same thing. But like I said, people need to understand that we don't really know how it's going to come to you. We just know what your spirit's giving us, and to be on the lookout for it, because you're going to see it one way or the other. So
Oh
I
yeah,
love that.
definitely. They're always around us. I say it's kind of creepy how often that they are around us because they're literally always with us. They're like our protectors and our biggest
Yes.
cheerleaders on the other side. And even with the, postcards on
Yes.
TikTok Live, like I know so many people who get postcards. I get so many.
Yep.
And those are just as important as
Yes.
the person getting the reading also. Like
Right.
postcards are very important. And I love getting my postcards. I love giving people postcards. And it's just something beautiful.
Yes, it really is. I mean, because again, I feel like, anybody that's in our lives or listening to us now, it's all about just finding that connection to the other side. And we all have it. You know what I mean? And again, like I said, we've talked about this as well. We're all mediums. We all have the ability to talk to their side. It's just harder for some people because, like, you've got to learn and you've got to practice. Some are just kind of more born with the ability and it's just been open for like you forever. Or some of us have shut that down because of experiences that we had, but you can definitely harness it. But we'd all just have to figure out what's the best way for us and how to harness that and what to look for and how to make it easier on ourselves. But we can all do it for sure, you know.
Hmm.
And that kind of leads us to the next thing, and one of the last things that we're going to talk about, which is mentors that we've had, and kind of like what our experiences were with class, and who we kind of have been, who we've gone through. Which we'll start with Brooke first, since we both took her class, and I'll let
Hmm.
you talk about that first because you actually started out with her with the beginners class, and I found her just what, 3 months ago, 2 months
Hmm.
ago, when we did the advanced class. So I'll let you talk about that, and then we can give that information for others that are looking to possibly do mediumship courses and start out as a beginner.
Yeah. So I started out with Brooke and Virginia's beginners class back in March. And I love the way that they teach because it gets me one out of my head.
Yes.
Two, it makes it super fun. Three, they are always there. So if you have like if I needed, one of my questions answered and I'm going through something now, I know 100% I can message both of them and they will help me through whatever it is that I'm dealing with, whether it be a rut or this experience or that experience, doesn't matter. I know I can message them and they'll help me out, which I think is very important.
It
So that's
is.
why I do always recommend classes for people if you are looking to get into mediumship, because they also made me stop and think about things that I wouldn't have thought of if I didn't take a class. You know
Right.
what I mean? They are huge on teaching ethics. They are huge on making it fun. They're huge on you entering into a community with other people who are also developing and have a lot of questions and are curious. And then you get to do a whole lot of practice readings for different people and you get to build that up, which I think is so beautiful. So I always recommend it. I will always recommend classes. I will never stop taking classes. I just think that they're so much fun. But again, even with mentors, you do have to be careful with who you are, getting a mentorship
Right.
from or taking a class from, because I have also heard horror stories where people go to someone and they walk out of class spending over $1,000 and didn't learn a single thing but to meditate.
Right. Right. You do have to definitely be careful. And, I had actually watched Brooke several times. I actually found her, I can't remember if I found her on Facebook first or on TikTok, but I know that like I watched her several times and I was just amazed by like her rapid
Mm-hmm.
fire readings and how quick she was. And I was like, that's what I need. But I also, like I had told you before, I was looking to open up my clairsentience and being able to feel and get those like heartfelt messages and not just always rely on my clairvoyance and my clairaudience, which is what I've always done for the last several years. So I enrolled in her class, and that's where we met, for the advanced course, which I absolutely loved. And of course, like I said, not only is she wonderful at answering all the questions that we have, but definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like, you remember I would text you and be like, I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't think I can do
Mm-hmm.
this, and I mean, and I was like, I knew I could, but we tend to second guess ourselves when we're doing something different. And she really made us learn how to connect with spirit in all different kinds of ways and ways that we've never, really practiced before, to show us that there's all different kinds of way to connect. It's not always just about your sitter or, it's just crazy that like I had never been pushed like that before. So I really, really enjoyed her class for sure. I also went to Kelly, the magical medium, who's on TikTok as well, and also a good friend of mine on Facebook. I went to her probably about 3 years ago, kind of whenever I was first getting started. And she's got amazing mediumship classes as well, and gives you all different kinds of tools to use, like different types of like divination stuff that you can use. She's amazing, so I love her. And then one of my also good friends that I met on here, who's not doing classes anymore, but she had Theory of Healing, is what it was called. Her name's Teresa. She was my very first mentor and just showed me how to like learn how to like do shadow work and learn how to like heal myself before I actually even got into the mediumship side of it and how to do the protection and everything. She was my very, very first mentor. Love her. She helped me out immensely. So I've kind of gone through several along the way. which I think is great. And I feel like I will continue to do other people's classes because I feel like all mediums are different and we learn something different from every single person. No medium is the same. We all channel differently and we all have different things that we bring to the table, if that makes sense. So I love that, like, I can constantly continue to learn and harness new ways of connecting with spirit, just like, Brooke was kind of teaching us this last way. So I've kind of had, I feel like the perfect medium mentor along each step of my process of becoming, the medium that I am now. They've all made perfect sense for me along, the little ride of mediumship, if you want to call it. So I love that. And I know that I've also sent a couple people that were asking about Brooke, her information, but there's Kelly, the magical medium, that you can find on Facebook and TikTok. She's great. She offers classes and she usually will tell you on her TikToks. And then the same thing with Brooke. She posts her information in Facebook, which is Mediumship with Brooke Ashley, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Facebook, you can find her information there if y'all are looking to take, initial beginner classes, advanced classes, all of the above. So you can always, I know Brooke stays really, really busy and so does Kelly. So you kind of have to figure out, when their next time is going to be. I think Brooke said she wouldn't have any more until January. Is that right? Or did she
I
open
think
another
so,
one?
yeah.
Okay.
I think
So
so.
just, make sure you're checking those websites. Those are people that we recommend. I'll let Alyssa give a little bit of information on anybody else that she recommends as well.
Yeah, so I have also Virginia. She was another teacher of mine. Let me look at her Instagram. I believe it's Morning Moon. Sorry, I should have been more prepared.
Girl, you're
Yeah,
fine.
Morning Moon Medium is her Instagram. She was one of the teachers in a couple of my classes as well, along with Brooke. Again, they really did push me and, show me my true potential, and it was absolutely amazing. I trust them 100%. You know what I mean? I love it. I love it.
Yes. And it is important to have somebody that's been doing it for a while. Like, even I know Brooke mentioned this recently, that like you can't just go into just teaching mediumship unless you've really like been through it and you've been doing it
Hmm.
for a while. You've kind of seen all the ins and outs of it. You've seen, the good things, the bad things, all the things, which is why we're here to talk about all of the things that we've, kind of gone through, so that you kind of understand that there is all different sides of mediumship. It's not just, um fun and games all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I know
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what people think, but that's just not really what it is, and of course we love it. And we have learned, the best way for us to do it and how to make sure that we are, being the best mediums that we can be ethical, make sure that we're giving, the healing and the love from the other side. But there is a lot of work that goes into it. You don't just learn it overnight and then all of a sudden you're like this, you know, Teresa Caputo or Tyler Henry. Like, it takes time, and you have to learn how to harness it. You have to kind of go through the bad to get to the good, if that makes sense. But it ends up being an amazing gift. And like I said, I do feel like it's an ability that we all have, but it just depends on, how hard you want to work at harnessing it and making it something that, is part of your life, if that makes sense.
It's definitely a whole lifestyle.
Yes.
Like sleep, eat, breathe, mediumship.
Yes, literally.
But that's not to say that if you aren't dealing with something, to take a break, make sure that you are always taking care of yourself
Yes.
first and foremost. That is very important because we do need to raise our vibration to connect to spirit. So if I'm feeling sick, I'm not going to do mediumship. If
Right.
my loved one, something happened to one of my loved ones and they're in the hospital, I need to go take care of them, that is going to be my number one priority.
Exactly.
Little things like that, things that I need to make sure that I'm eating. I can't stay on live all day and do readings. I need to make sure that I eat and that I'm drinking my water and I'm taking care of
Right.
myself, that I'm meditating. So even though it is a lifestyle and you sleep, eat, breathe mediumship,
Yes.
it is still very, very, very important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself physically, emotionally,
Right.
spiritually, in every kind of way, and you're putting that first.
Exactly. We are human at the end of the day, and we have our own elements and things like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, you know what I mean? So my
Mm-hmm.
family's always going to come first before mediumship. But this is something that I've always wanted to do and I've always felt called to for the longest time. So I'm so happy to be able to do this full time. I'm so happy to have met people like you and all of our friends on TikTok, and like to have this amazing community of people that like only want the best for each other. Like, we always go into each other's lives and like lift each other up, hype each other up. We're here for, the questions, or things that we come across that we're like, I don't really know, you know, what I could have done differently with this situation. You know, it's always good to have a community where you can talk to people about the things that we're going through, because at the end of the day, we are human. You know,
Hmm.
we talk every day about all of our own personal stuff that we have going on. We all have, you know, our own personal issues and things that are going on. Our lives are not perfect. We have, you know, shit that happens on the daily that, you know, can get underneath our skin, or, you know, piss us off. But like, you know, we're
Oh yeah.
also very good, because of where we at with our spiritual journeys, to be able to let that shit roll off of our back and pick ourselves back up, you know. And that's something that I used to not be able to do. If something pissed me off, that was it. The day was ruined. I wasn't talking to anybody. Like, just leave me alone. And I've learned now, especially from spirit, don't do that. You know, like, don't let things affect you so negatively that it ruins your day, or it like ruins your week or month, or even longer. You know, like, we don't have enough time here on this earth to be focusing on the negatives. It's all about making sure that we have the right perspective and staying positive. Like you said, we have to have our vibration very, very high in order to be able to talk to the other side and get those messages that need to be given, you know, to our sitters. So very, very important. But at the end of the day, we are human. So, you know, I know that there's been days where I haven't hopped on and people are like, where are you at? Like, why are you not on? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, y'all, sometimes I just need a day off. You know, like, I need a little
Yeah.
self-care day to just Netflix and chill and watch my shows, binge watch whatever, and eat all day long, whatever I feel like doing. But, you know, at the end of the day, I always want to be on to help other people. And that's like my main goal these days. But at the same time, there's some days where we just need a break, you know, and we just need to rest,
Yeah.
because we are human and we are going through all the same things that everybody else is going through. But, you know, with this journey, I've learned that, you know, having that high vibration and keeping that like positive perspective is so important every single day, or else you can land back into like negative cycles that you don't, you know, they're just not
Mhm.
good for our highest good, or for anybody else. You know, you're not helping anybody whenever you've got a negative mindset. So it's so important to make sure that like you're fixing yourself and you're working on yourself all the time to make sure that you're being the best version of yourself that you can be, because you can't help anybody else out if we're not being, you know, the best version of ourselves. You know, we're only doing a disservice to ourselves and to other people if we're, you know, keeping a negative mindset, or feeling like, you know, nothing's ever going to get better, or whatever it is, you know. But
Yeah.
it's just so important, you know, for people to know. And like I said, I love giving those, you know, words of wisdom from the other side to my sitters, because like I said, I take that advice to heart as well. You know, a lot of times we get our own postcards in every single reading where we're like, you know what, I need to be working on this too. So it's really, really great
Mhm.
that we learn lessons on the daily from spirit, and we can incorporate that into our everyday lives, you know.
Yeah. 100%. It's very huge to, that's why they call it mediumship.
Right.
That's why they call it mediumship, because they need to lower their vibration. We need to
Yep.
raise ours because we need to meet in the
In the
middle.
middle. Yep.
In the middle. So it's very important. I'm staring at one of my biggest problems right now, which is the dog. Um, but I've been taking some time off because life has been crazy. Heather knows
Yep.
all about it. I call her,
Yep. It'll
talk
kick
about
our ass from day to day
what.
sometimes, you know?
Yeah, sometimes things just happen, and you know what? It's okay. It'll
Yes.
pass.
Yep.
It'll be fine.
Yep.
But things just happen, life happens, and that's completely okay. Because
Yeah.
if you're wanting to get into this, don't think that 24/7 needs to be mediumship. Of course, it's very important that you are working at it and don't give up and keep going. But just
Right.
remember that to take care of yourself also.
Yes. Most importantly, you know, because we cannot do for others if we're not doing for ourselves. So,
Mm-hmm.
and also, like, you know, I had a reading from some the other day. Dawn did some cards for me, and she was literally like, sometimes like you're pouring from an empty cup. You know, she's like, you
Yeah.
have to make sure that your cup is also full. Like, don't pour from an empty cup. And I was like, and that actually came into a reading like right after that, where I felt like, you know, spirit was saying like, this person was pouring from an empty cup, just like I was, you know. And you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You can't pour into somebody else's cup, no matter how much you want to help somebody, if you don't, you know, you don't have your own cup full as well. You know, like, we have to take care of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves first and most importantly in order to help others. So big for us as mediums, to make sure that we keep that in mind, and we're always making sure that we're putting ourselves first before, you know, anything
Mm-hmm.
else. And that's just so that we can have, you know, the best readings for people and get the best information, and make sure that we are helping other people heal and understand the other side, for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely check,
100%.
yeah, definitely check those different courses out with these wonderful mediums that have been mentors for us along our own paths. hopefully one day we can also do classes together. I think that would be really, really fun, and learn, like start teaching
Mhm.
other people. I feel like, maybe at some point we will be there. Right now, we're just focusing on doing the best that we can with getting as many readings done daily to help others that are needing to connect to the other side. But at the same time, we also like to take it easy. Some days I don't get on twice, I just get on once a day, or some days I don't get on at all. And so just
Mhm.
know, guys, we're definitely here to help, but some days we just also need a break as well. But we're definitely here, I would say 98% of the time, to make sure that we're spreading the love and the energy from the other side, and making sure that you know that your loved ones are always with you, for sure.
Yes, most definitely. We do try our best. We put our all into mediumship. We
Definitely.
really, really do. Even when we're taking a break,
Yeah.
we're still talking about it. We're still
Yes.
like brainstorming on the podcast. Like, even though we're not on live giving readings actively, we are still very much, okay, what's the next step? Okay,
Yes.
this. You
Yes.
know what I
We are
mean?
pushing forward as much as we can and trying to get our names out there, guys. So remember to let your friends and family know about us. Two mediums, no filter. I can't even think. Alyssa, make sure that she does it on both Spotify. I was forgetting that I can actually say the names on here. I try not to say them on TikTok. So
Yeah.
remember, guys, whenever we get done with this, Alyssa is the amazing guru behind it all. She is our tech queen. So she's the one who will upload to Spotify and YouTube. She usually has it done same day, guys. So make sure that you check it out, and make sure that you're also coming and hanging out with us on our lives, coming in and getting your readings, sending friends and family that may need a reading to us, because we're definitely here to spread the love to everybody. But also remember that, we also like your input, and want, new ideas and things that we can dive into, things that we can focus on the education aspect of it for our new podcast every single week. So definitely, we're in October now, we're in spooky season, so we're super excited for that. I got my little I was going to call them
I got my
vampires.
candle.
There you go. My little ghost bonfire shirt. I was going to call them vampires. I'm still talking about vampires from last night, guys. Anyways, but yeah, make sure you come and see us and let us know some ideas. And of course, we will see you again next week and with more information. We try to, bring at least a good 3 or 4 different topics to dive into, but we are always here to go back and reiterate if we need to. So just let us know if there's something that you want us to dive deeper into. And we are definitely here for it, guys, for sure.
Mhm. 100%. We will see you next week. And thank
That's
you for
right.
coming in, spending time with us, watching us, if you made it to the end. And of course, happy October. Spooky
Yes.
season.
Yes, guys. We will see y'all soon. Peace out, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.